Starting on Friday, a new Radio Cayman CI Retro series debuts. This new series will include a Talk Today feature, painting a word picture of our Cayman Islands' history, culture, and heritage, highlighting its importance to our existence, past, and our future. CI Retro Talk Today Friday at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman. CI Retro Talk Today is being brought to you by Flowers Bottled Water, the cooler water. Have you had your 8 glasses today? And by Four Winds Esso, serving the West Bay community for the past 6 decades.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. It is a very special honor to be able to work in partnership with Mr. Loxley Ebanks. Welcome to this special CI Retro Talk Today presentation, where the focus here will be on our importance of and value of our history, our culture, heritage, and its influence on our development in this modern age as we look back, to our past. Let's talk to the CI Retro. Please stay tuned.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And here's a special opportunity for us to continue in partnership, making sure that we focus on our history, our heritage, our culture. And CI Retro Talk Today special presentation. Mr. Loxley Ebanks, thanks so much for not only facilitating but enabling us. Good afternoon.
Well, thank you, Sterling. And this CI Retro Talk Today special presentation, we hope will enlighten the community, the wide community. We got a lot of folks out there that need some enlightenment about our culture, our heritage, and our history, as I think we'll all agree around here. So to help us explore and dig deep into this subject, we have with us in our studio, as of right now, Mr. Henry Muto. And as I introduce these gentlemen, they will take 37 seconds just to tell us just a little bit about themselves. So, Mr. Muto, go ahead.
Thank you, Loxley. Thank you. I'm called the Artistic Director of the Cayman National Cultural Foundation, and I've been here sort of at the foundation since '89, but before that since '80. And so, whatever I say today, I just hope that people understand that I have no experiential knowledge of Caymanian culture before 1980 when I first arrived. So, I'm going to talk generally on culture.
And also, we're expecting to join us shortly Dr. Roy Borden and Dr. Steve McField. But in the studio also with us is Mr. Gilbert McLean.
Good afternoon, Loxley and the rest of the panel. I'm Gilbert McLean. I've been around for a long time. I've been a civil servant for most of my life. I've also been a MLA and a Minister of Government, and having lived the length of time I do have some idea about what Cayman was and is, and I even have some ideas about what it might be in the future.
And of course, you spent quite a bit of time in the BRAC.
Yes, indeed. I do have some views over there as well.
And a little later on, Pastor Alson Ebanks will join us by telephone, and of course, he will be sort of looking into the religious aspect or spiritual aspect of our culture or our heritage over the years. So on we go. We made an effort to have included in this panel someone else from the other gender, but we did not succeed in that process. But right here, we need to tell you that this program is being brought to you by Flowers Bottled Water, the cooler water, and by Four Winds Esso, serving the West Bay community for over 6 decades. History, culture, heritage, Four Winds Esso, right there in the everlasting shadow of Aunt Sally's Naseberry tree, of course. And that was one of the cultural big places in West Bay for a long, long time. You don't hear anything about it now, but it has a lot of stories buried somewhere down there.
You see, those are the things, huh?
Those are the things that we need to really keep up front. Okay, now that introductions and formalities are just about complete, we'll just wait on Steve and Dr. Roy to get in. We'll get right down into the, shall we say, the bilge, or is that's a good maritime.
Gonna pump it out, huh?
Or the subject. And the basic question is, have our Cayman Islands culture or history or heritage gained, or is it maintaining the level of influence that it should be in our development, or did it have the level of influence in our previous years from, and you can take it back to 1776, I guess. And who wants to take that up first? Moto?
Well, what I'm going to take up is look at culture in general, because I think that it's a vexing question when anybody asks anyone to define culture, particularly when you're defining as maybe we're trying to look at a national culture rather than just a global culture, which the global one, national gets subsumed into the global culture because the world is so small now that there's nothing that we can do, not being a very powerful nation, to be able to stem the tide of some of what is happening in the world. We can try to mitigate it, but it's really very, very difficult. To me, this is one of the finest definitions of culture. And then when we break it down, you will see, and you gentlemen and the gentlemen who will come, will get a chance to break it down, and we can look specifically now at Caymanian culture. So this is from Stuart Hall, who some of you might know. He's an eminent, he passed away a couple of years ago, eminent cultural anthropologist, well known, originally from Jamaica, but lived most of his life, I think, and did a lot of his work in England and taught at university and so on. But he says this, quote, "A national culture is the whole body of efforts made by a people in the sphere of thought to describe, justify, and praise the actions through which that people has created itself and keeps itself in existence." That's what Stuart says, and I really like the definition because it covers a lot of what I think we will cover here today. So I will leave that with you gentlemen, and then we can go around again.
Okay, well, just to pick up on where you left off there, the dictionary describes our heritage as property passed down by inheritance, something handed on from past generation, legacy. And its culture, heritage, history is all intertwined there. They all
exactly
combine to make up one great process forward.
And this is and I agree with that, but it's all in this. This is why I like this definition, because it covers everything. And culture is not culture without history. And you can't have really a culture without understanding the history. And if we want to call it heritage, because of definition, we like to break these things down and say, well, heritage is this and culture is this. But I tend not to like to break the two down, because then you start to get into narrow definitions of what things are and you miss a lot. So I'd like to talk about culture in general, and then we'll get the history and all of
this.
Well,
I think our culture, our history, our heritage is what we live.
Yes. For sure.
Yep, you can pick up on that.
Yeah. Well, Loxley, you mentioned a word there about the property and so on, which is being handed down. One of the things that has changed our culture, I think, is the fact that there's been a major disposition of property here in the Cayman Islands. And one of the things that made us quite unique when we were a small population, 5,000 people, 6,000, 7,000 people, was the fact that basically everyone owned a piece of land. That's what set us aside from all the other islands of the Caribbean. There was no mass amount of land owned by any single individual, although we had a few families who had much more than others, but everybody had a property, a family property that normally was referred to the the old homestead, which came down generation to generation and so on. But now those who own the larger properties or land or parcels, as you want to term them, they have been sold in the general process of changing in this country, that to allow the impact of commercialization, which has brought about a major change. And I suppose from that perspective, maybe there's 10% of the families in Cayman who don't own or have a mortgage that doesn't let them, that they're not free as such as we were before. I can think of my own situation when I grew up as a young boy. My grandparents had a lot of land that is at least in 2 different subdivisions that was sold for little or nothing if you look even then, and what it has become now. So that kind of tradition has changed, as well as the characteristics, which is the culture you referred to. And that has also changed. The language pretty much has stayed English, but we have about 4 or 5 different languages that's spoken here now by other persons who have come in, and we talk about the diversity and so on. And this is what has happened in Cayman, which has basically changed the culture, because the actual people that originally peopled the Cayman Islands, and we called ourselves Caymanians, which we still do, but it has been impacted in a major way by other cultures. And of course, culture includes cuisine, our foods and so on. I mean, tell me when it was that we started eating curry goat, and beef was once a year in December. So it has been a major change here in Cayman, and it's ongoing. And how much do we attempt, and how do we attempt to hold on to some of it, like Mr. Matu does, because he is very much oriented into the culture and whatnot here, and I commend him for what he does here, and to keep the Caymanian flavor going, but it is constantly being impacted. And what do we do to say, well, look, at this point, here's what it was, or here's what it is now. Everybody gather around. We're going to keep it, at least in a major way, this way.
Gil, you mentioned something that kind of really stuck me a few minutes ago. You mentioned about the property and so forth. Now, if we look back, you think we can connect that to the lack of knowledge of our forefathers, to the value of what this all meant, what it would all mean in the future?
It could be that, well, I don't think our forefathers, I don't think my grandmother and grandfather could even imagine or perceive what Cayman has become. Because let's look at the land again. So the land is the source of all wealth. They used the beach to keep their boats and to go fishing from the beach. And you went in the sea and whatnot, but they never conceived the value, the incredible amount of money that beachland has been sold for. Their thing was to keep. They placed value on the inland of our islands. For what reason? Agriculture. They had to actually grow stuff to feed themselves. Well, they kept some chickens, some cows, and all the rest of it. But it was. I think, you raise a very important point, Loxley, that I don't think that they could possibly conceive. And even some generations earlier, they said, well, you want to buy, let's sell it. But as you sell it, you're selling to people who have that money. Those persons who control the land, in effect, control the people,
But I think one of the things that comes out of what you're saying there, which is interesting to me, and which is one of the ways I operate the programs that I do at the Cultural Foundation by and large, is that if the only way, you see, I think I said this to Roy Bodden the other day. He was doing a talk, and I said, look, Roy, we know the problem. We can come here every day and state the problem. I mean, we all know what the problem is. I am a person of action, so my question always is, how do we solve the problem? What can we take from the things that we think are moving too fast or dangerous? How can we create a mindset to be able to, A, use them in a judicious way, one, but more importantly is if we do not place value on the things that belong to us, then no one else is going to come and place value on it. You see, several years ago, when I asked the board to purchase Miss Lassie's paintings, I knew then from the time that people used to go and see her that they were offering her $50 and $100, and she was a very generous woman. So she gave people the stuff, but people would come from all over the world. She'd do some things for them free, but a lot of people felt they could come and buy the things cheap. So what I did is I gathered the paintings and I said, look, there is no way that I'm going to place a value on these works that you can't buy them, right? And so on average, each of these paintings, I consulted somebody from UNESCO, a friend of mine who was in Jamaica. I consulted art specialists and people, and we got together and we placed a value of, and I can say it now because it's public knowledge, of $275,000 on 100 pieces. So divide that and you will see we're probably looking somewhere like, I don't know what, close to 1,500 a painting, when she would have probably sold it for 50. But what we didn't, so the idea was to place a value on them. Now that's a monetary value. You can't place a value on these paintings. The Cultural Foundation has now saved 140, I think. There's no value you can place on that. And so if we don't value these things by approving the funding for supporting them, approving the funding for supporting the house to keep it there, I mean, people look at it and think, oh, well, it's not, it's just a little old house. But all of what we've just talked about, history, culture, heritage, is wrapped up in that house. And not just that. Obviously, there are many more that we've lost. But we've got to start doing something, because I know that we talk around the table and sometimes these things hurt us a lot. And we want to know, how do we solve this? Because, you see, money is driving the world these days. And everything, people are putting a commercial value on it. But I think that we should not allow people to place a value on the things that we value, whether it is monetary or otherwise, and culture has to be paid for in the way we are talking about. And by culture, I mean history and so on. And we can talk a little bit.
Which are close. These things are close to our soul, exactly. to the earth from which we come as such. And you're right. I mean, look at the older buildings that have simply been wiped off the face of the earth. I think it's today's newspaper I see a house taken at the worst angle, I think, ever, saying that government owns this, and it's stated in a way, well, this needs to be sold now, and I'm thinking, why not keep that house just like it is for the thousands of tourists that walk around in Georgetown? And this is something to see. This is how it was. We're proud of it, you know.
You know, you mentioned Miss Lassie, and in this very same studio, we had her in several number of times. And she told me the story. She said, one morning I was painting my window. I was repainting it, she said, because she painted and repainted.
Right, yes, exactly.
And she said, two of my friends who had been in the land, or that had been in the ground, came by and said they saw me there. Now, they didn't think that I heard them, but when they got a little further down the road, and they were all carrying baskets, of cassava and whatever, she said, I heard them, one of them said to the other one, I wonder what our old foo-foo lassie doing this morning.
She gone crazy.
Making history.
But we're coming up on a break time now. But before that, we want to tell you that you're listening to a special CI Retro Talk Today presentation being brought to you by Flowers Bottled Water, the Cooler Water, and by Four Winds Esso in West Bay, serving the Cayman Islands West Bay community for over 6 decades.
Service, especially for you, especially for you.
Four Winds Esso in West Bay, serving the West Bay community since 1969. That's over 6 decades of friendly, fast, super and courteous service. Be it for fuel for your automobile or equipment needs, or for that quick pickup of those last-minute items for your favorite meal, it's there for you at the Four Winds Esso Tiger Market. Taste enhancers, a grand variety of snacks and drinks, or that early morning sprucer upper, coffee. They've also got a grand selection of sweets and ice cream, headache and pain relievers, paper and picnic essentials. It's all there for you at Four Winds Esso in West Bay, your friendly, fast, super courteous service centre, corner of West Bay Road and Church Street in West Bay. Four Winds Esso, 949-3467.
Especially for you.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it. Drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasadora Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Brand Source Home Gallery is celebrating 48 years serving Cayman with a 20% store-wide anniversary sale. Get 20% off everything for 2 days only, Friday and Saturday, October 26th and 27th. Choose from Cayman's largest range of kitchen and laundry appliances. Browse the huge mattress selection and save 40% off. Check out the Design Center and save 20% on your custom designed kitchen, bathrooms, or closets. And browse the beautiful bath showroom for the most elegant and innovative bath products in Cayman. The Brand Source 20% off store-wide anniversary sale is Friday and Saturday, the 26th and 27th. Open until 6 p.m. both days. So hurry in now to Brand Source Home Gallery in Industrial Park. Call 623-5000 for more details.
Not all insurance is created equal, but who has the time to shop around? Take the guesswork out of your insurance coverage with Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Let us match you with the best coverage to suit your needs at a price to suit your wallet. Plus, get superior customer service from dedicated claims professionals to ensure speedy claims processing. Get your insurance through Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Held over by popular demand this Friday and Saturday only.
It's a crazy 2-day sale only, Friday and Saturday at International Lighting. Comforters for $100 and over, reduced to just $55. All sizes. Rugs have been reduced from $400 to $225 and from $325 to $200. 2 crazy days, I tell you. International Lighting and Design upstairs and downstairs. Ed's Plaza, North Sunway. Open 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 949-5141. And for outdoor shopping, stop by the entrance of the Bontown Church of God Chapel Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and enjoy those same crazy discounts. Spend $25 or more and be entered in the drawing for a chance to win a round-trip ticket to Denver, Atlanta, New York, Chicago, Miami, Jamaica, or Honduras. Drawing will take place on Friday, December 22nd.
Thousands of Caymanians work in our cruise tourism industry. It is a myth that Cayman does not need cruise tourism. It is a fact that 4,500 Caymanians work in this industry today as taxi and tour operators, boat captains and crew, restaurateurs, retailers, water sports operators, and ambassadors at our attractions. If our cruise tourism industry is half of what it is today, what are we going to do with our people, the thousands of unemployed Caymanians? Support the peers, support our tourism.
10 years and so on. So
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us in this special, production of CI Retro Talk Today feature. Ably new, facilitated by Mr. Loxley Banks. And join us, Mr. Gilbert McLean and Mr. Henry Matu. Hey, Mr. Loxley, I was just looking on a couple of things someone had said, but maybe I share them first during the break so we can laugh at that and decide. Well, I'm listening and learning, man. So, Mr. Loxley?
Well, back to our discussion here with Henry and Mr. Gilbert, and hopefully that Mr. Roy Borden will join us pretty soon here, and Dr. Steve Mike Field. But back to the importance and value of our Cayman Islands culture, history and heritage, and its influence on our Cayman Islands development in this modern age. And now, what are some of the aspects of our culture or heritage that, as we look back, did we think probably was really ignored big time as to where we are at today?
I think so. But I also think that everything that because, as I said, because the world has grown, even if you take it from the 1970s, the rapidity with which the world has become one, particularly with the cell phone, where you can press a button and you're in London at a meeting or whatever. What I think we may not have foreseen, or not, maybe we foresaw it, but wasn't particularly interested in doing it for whatever reasons. But that everybody who, business people who are into economics, who want to make money, and nothing wrong with that. But I think that what we didn't do is to have some sort of control. And I know that over the time that I've been here, I've heard a lot of people complain about, you have to manage growth and do this and don't take buildings here and so on.
But they're not doing anything about it.
But there are arguments now, again, there are arguments for and against. Now, who is right and who is wrong? We know from our perspective, the way we view culture, the arts or history and heritage, that if everything should be managed. If you're eating, that's a simple thing, you're eating food. If you eat the same starch every single day with nothing else, then eventually you're going to get a lot of sugar in your body and you're going to get things. So the thing is to manage everything. And I think that perhaps we may not have done such a good job of managing it. And that again comes back to the point of valuing what it is. You see, you have to identify the things, and you've asked about the things, right? The history, you talk about the seamen, and just as important as the seamen are the women who stayed at home and raised the family, right?
Definitely.
So you had that one, right? And then if you look at the way of expressing oneself, the language, right? And the rituals of, for example, when you launch a boat, there were specific things that you did. People played specific types of music. Church, whatever, in the old days, well, not old as, because I can't talk for you, but I mean, what I mean is that whether it's Christian Endeavor or all of the entertainments that the churches used to have, and the little things that people did, whether it's playing marbles, whatever these things were, those were important in creating what I would like to call, and which is embedded in the culture, is identity. Because when a community is able to identify with the things that's happening in it, then you become a member of that community. What is happening with Caymanians now, I believe, is that they do not feel that they're a member of the larger community. And when I say Caymanians, I mean the Caymanians of our generation, perhaps, or slightly older, even from maybe the beginning of the 80s or whenever. They don't feel a sense of kinship, because quite apart from the fact that you're hearing different accents and so on, which is understandable, but it's more than that. It is about, people listen to my accent and you're talking about Caymanian, who is he to talk about Cayman? But the point is that I came and I recognized right away, because I came from a colonial society. And many of the things that are happening in Cayman happened when I was a little boy. So I came through the grill of that experience, right? And therefore, I could see what was happening immediately. And when Dave was the chairman of the foundation, we decided, look, we've got to identify certain things. We've got to identify people, human beings, and we have then got to turn them, whether people like it or not, into our heroes. You see, because I had heard about the seamen and the great heroes, and like Gilbert was saying just now, they didn't have education, but they could steer a ship through the eye of a needle, if you want to. So I think we have to be able to try to do something about it, but the horse is running so far ahead of the cart right now, to use a metaphor, is that to try to turn it back now is going to require great effort, great belief in ourselves, and to do it. And if other people are upset with us, then we've got to be prepared, because as I asked the other day, are we prepared for any action that needs to be taken, whether it's economically, whether it's by the laws of the country? Are we prepared to accept the consequences of doing and saying certain things? Because when you say certain things, some people take it the wrong way, because they think you're against them when you're not. You're really trying to create the best possible scenario and to build a country in which you are comfortable, which the people are comfortable. And when I say the people, I mean everybody who has a stake in this place. But you shouldn't forget the base, the deep base, as people like to popularly call the roots. You can't forget that. And whenever a culture is being, because it's moving all the time and changing all the time, and so even if we accept that, at some point if we take a photo, if we can take a photograph of it, we have to be able to identify that still in the makeup and the composition of what we call Caymanian culture, there are elements of the things that we trust, that we believe, that has worked for us, and that we can continue to express ourselves in a way that is comfortable for everybody. That's saying a whole lot of words, but I think that would be my approach.
I think, Henry, you covered so many things that are the case in our reality now, and at the base of it is the fact. I mean, when you use the word identity, it's I think that the general views which are imposed through whatever means in the country here is to say to us, listen, you're not there, you don't have it. We're coming to bring this to you. You remember in the days, we know history in the days of slavery, the colonialists came to educate the savages.
Of course.
You know, we didn't have a culture, and this is how it's supposed to be if you're going to be civilized, you know. So,
if I may ask though, Mr. Matu, you referenced a number of times money. You talk about money is what makes the world go around, right?
Yeah.
And Mr. Loxley's question earlier about are there things that we lost or things that we failed to elevate? Is it money, or is it that lack of ethics and integrity that we seem to possess as a people? Because you grew up, a man's brother was born. He shook somebody's hand, and that was...
Okay, well, look, at the top of this thing is education. It's education.
Right.
So if you are educated from small to value, and I'm coming back to the education and the value of things, if you're educated to understand that no value can be placed on Aunt Julia's folk music. No value meaning you can't say, oh, well, what does it mean? It means $50,000 or whatever, or Miss Lassie's painting is valued this. Well, for insurance purposes, people want us to put numbers on it, right? But what I've told people over and over, that these things you cannot place a value on them because of what they mean to the people. The experiences of the music that Aunt Julia sings about, the unique style of drumming, which nobody so far that I know has said there's a specific type. There may be types of drumming around the region or whatever that, or even in England or wherever else, that might be, you'll hear echoes of it, because obviously these things, it doesn't happen overnight. They have legs, and you put things together, but there's no value in them. So if we don't educate, and I think one of the things we need to do from now is, if we decide that we want to start to place value in these things, is that we need to understand that economics is one thing, economic value is one thing, but if you train young people to love and respect what they have, and to love and respect themselves through their endeavors, through their music, through their dance, through their arts, through their history, whatever it is, you then train somebody who will become a future economist, politician, whatever it is, that will understand that when somebody comes to them for something and they say, we want to develop, you say, great, we love it, because nobody would argue against some development, and that you have to have this thing and the world moves. But you have to say, well, look, this is not going, this is off the table right now, right? Like I tell people, Miss Lassie's paintings are off the table as far as I'm concerned. Now, when I leave the foundation, I don't know what's going to happen. But I have not me personally, but I have helped to put in the document where we bought the paintings that they and I put can't, but nothing should be can't, but they can't be resold. So they're there. Now somebody can pass a law and say these things can be sold for whatever. But it's there in the law. So you're going to have to go make a law now to change that, to sell them. And this is the kind of prescient thinking, the kind of thing that people need to do when you're thinking about these things, is not to jump. But then I'm only a person who's looking at culture in a way of valuing my own self and valuing the country and the people who I think had a lot to do with building. Now, this is not to say, let me make this straight, this is not to say that other people who have not come here have not made a terrific contribution and continue to do it. But I think even those people have to have some sort of empathy and have some sort of, I think respect for the fact that you're not living among people who don't know how to look after themselves, who never knew how to look after themselves. Those days have gone in the 1800s, you know, and so you have to see the people among whom you've come to live as human beings with ambition, who want to become and to live a life that is transcendent. That's all I can say.
Yeah, yes, I think what you say is so very true. And you know, you speak of education. It depends to where you get the education. Whether you get it in the industrialized country, who's teaching one thing. You know, everyone must have a job and work for money, and that's the ultimate goal. And you're going to get old at 60, and you're supposed to die. And in the meantime, then you must get insured and pay the insurance companies so much and so on. It's a hell of a way for life to go, and we need to perceive beyond that. And the type of education that we need is one that is infused with an understanding of ourselves and placing value on it, and that we in the Cayman Islands had a society, had a culture that had all the various elements that go into a culture. You also mentioned the religious side of things, and I think that we were guided to a very large extent by the strong religious feeling that were there then, that people went to church. They respected it. I couldn't say that I recall any time in growing up into my youth and so on that anyone was into sitting down and discussing things like we are now, into the elements of the Christian faith or be it Presbyterian or Baptist or Methodist or whatever, or Muslim religion or whatever the case may be. That didn't exist those times. There was one concept, but it gave us a kind of guidance that we didn't have the kind of aggression and violence in this society, and the deep respect, particularly for our elders, you know.
Well, when we come back from our break, we'll take our news as well. Pastor Alison Ebanks will join us by phone. Get a chance, maybe pick up on that religious, spiritual aspect. Please stay tuned. This is a special presentation of CI Retro Talk Today.
The Premier League is back. Every team, every game, every goal is on Flow. Sign up for the Flow Sports Pack today and get 8 dedicated channels to all the Premier League games in stunning HD. Call 1-800-534-7253 or visit discoverflow.ky for more info. The Premier League is back.
You remember the sale at Vant Motors?
Yeah, the Your Sale, Your Choice. The one where you can get cash back or can put the savings to extend the warranty or upgrade features?
Yes, it's still going on. But now you can get $8,000 off a new Ford Ranger truck. $8,000, you know?
You for real?
Come see for yourself while they still have so much to choose from now through October. Save big during Your Sale, Your Choice at Vant Motors. With almost every vehicle on sale, you decide whether to get your dream ride at its lowest price. Take cash back. Add years to the warranty or service plan. Choose an add-on or mix your options. Your sale, your choice, because you know what you need, and Vant Motors will help you drive it home. Vant Motors on Walkers Road.
Welcome to our Esso service station. How can I help you today, ma'am?
$25 in fuel, please.
Sure. I bet I can make you smile, too.
Bet you can't.
Would $5,000 cash make you smile?
Of course. Who wouldn't? But how?
Spend $25 or more in fuel at any of our Esso service stations, and you could be the winner of $5,000 cash. Every week for 5 weeks, one lucky winner will win $5,000 cash. Made you smile, didn't I?
I'm smiling.
Drive into an Esso station today. The Esso brand is a trademark of ExxonMobil Corporation and is used under license.
Did you know that recycling collection containers are located island-wide on Grand Cayman? The Department of Environmental Health's program is an integral part of DEH's waste management responsibility in the Cayman Islands. Start your recycling program at home today. Put your Type 1 and 2 plastics in appropriate DEH recycling containers at all Foster's supermarkets, Kirk Market, or Hurley's Grand Harbor. Please keep the Cayman Islands clean. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. For more information about recycling, go to www.deh.gov.ky.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Auger has promoted 7 Caymanians as they continue their commitment to developing talent in Cayman through its articled clerk and scholarship programs. Auger's practice partner, James Bergstrom, noted it's important to them as a firm to continue with their commitment to developing talent in Cayman, both through their articled clerk and scholarship programs and by recognizing and rewarding talent across all levels and teams. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. A 56-year-old man has been arrested in Florida in connection with a mail bombing campaign aimed at critics of U.S. President Donald Trump. U.S. officials named the man as Cesar Sayoc, saying that more arrests could follow. 12 packages have been sent to figures such as former President Barack Obama and actor Robert De Niro in recent days. The latest 2 were found in Florida and New York City today. The fiancé of murdered Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi says she has declined an invitation to the White House by U.S. President Donald Trump, accusing him of not being sincere about investigating the killing. Haiti Sengiz told Turkish TV she thought the invitation was aimed at influencing public opinion in the U.S. Khashoggi was murdered in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul 3 weeks ago. And Irish singer Sinead O'Connor has announced she has converted to Islam. The artist, who is best known for her 1990 hit version of the song Nothing Compares to You, said she had changed her name to Shuhada. In a message on Twitter, she thanked fellow Muslims for their support. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
CUC advises motorists that in an effort to alert approaching drivers of speed restrictions when entering an area of road where CUC vehicles and personnel are present, the company will be deploying rumble strips. These rumble strips are a series of raised transverse rubber strips laid across the road which changes the noise a vehicle's tires make on the surface and so warning drivers of speed restrictions. On approaching CUC's work zones, motorists will observe bright orange road signs signifying rumble strips ahead. Before entering these work zones, motorists will encounter the rumble strips that are encouraged to drive with extreme caution at slow speeds until they are well clear of the work zones. These rumble strips are essential to safeguarding against potential danger to CUC personnel. If you have any questions regarding the use of rumble strips, please contact our customer service team at 949-5200 or via email at service@cuc.ky.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it. Drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasadora Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Okay, settle down. There's someone I want to thank. This guy knows how to get the most out of every fill-up. This guy had the common sense to drive into Esso so I could get back on the road. $5,000 richer. Thanks to me. Thank you so much, me. Thank you. Yes.
Spend $25 at any Esso service station and get a chance to win in weekly draws for $5,000 cash. Every week for 5 weeks, we'll be choosing a winner. You can also get a chance to win free fuel and prizes at our weekly spin and win events. That's $30,000 in cash and prizes to be won. Drive into an Esso station today. You'll thank yourself. The Esso brand is a trademark of Exxon Mobil Corporation and is used under license.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Brand Source Home Gallery is celebrating 48 years serving Cayman with a 20% store-wide anniversary sale. Get 20% off everything for 2 days only, Friday and Saturday, October 26th and 27th. Choose from Cayman's largest range of kitchen and laundry appliances. Browse the huge mattress selection and save 40% off. Check out the Design Center and save 20% on your custom designed kitchen, bathrooms, or closets. And browse the beautiful bath showroom for the most elegant and innovative bath products in Cayman. The Brand Source 20% off store-wide anniversary sale is Friday and Saturday, the 26th and 27th. Open until 6 p.m. both days. So hurry in now to Brand Source Home Gallery in Industrial Park. Call 623-5000 for more details.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to this special production of CI Retro Talk Today, able to facilitated by Mr. Loxley Banks. And joining us, Mr. Henry Matou, Mr. Gilbert McLean, and now the excellent company of Dr. Steve McField. On the telephone, we also have Pastor Alison Ebanks. But before we go to the phones, Dr. Steve, thank you, sir. Good afternoon to you. Thank you for sharing with us. The demands in your time, sir, are immense. So good afternoon to you, sir. Mr. Steve, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you. And I'm glad that I could come. And I'm happy for the invitation from Mr. Banks for asking me to be on the show with my colleagues today. I couldn't be in better company with you, Sterling, and my friend on my right here, Mr. Mutu. I did know him first. In fact, I really didn't take to him at first when I met him, because I saw him. I went down there one time to the reception to the what's it called?
The Harkwell.
Yeah, Harkwell, and he was running these people. He had them like soldiers. No, he says it's not right. It's not right. You got to get it just right. Just get it right. And then Frank told me, he says, that's what a director does, And then I got to know him, and I found out that he and I have so much in common about our history, about the history of the Caribbean, and then the last time I spoke to him, I think it was the last time that a friend from Guyana came.
Yeah, Dave
Martin doing a new song, and I knew Dave Martin from Canada. When I was going to school in Canada, Dave Martin had the trade winds then, and they used to play up a place called Little Trinidad Club. And I used to go up there every Friday or Saturday evening to listen to them. And of course, Mr. McLean is my old friend from the long time. He was the first one who recruited me to work for the government after I got my law degree. And the first job I got through him was clerk of the courts. And then he recruited me to work with the government permanently, and then I went to England to do the bar exams. That's why I'm in Cayman today. Otherwise, I would have been in Canada. And of course, Mr. Banks, I don't think that anyone loves Cayman better than Mr. Banks and I. We always talk about the good old days and the things that are dear to us, our spiritual heritage, our the heritage of the sea. And that is part of our motto. You founded upon the sea. And by the way, Mr. Banks, I spoke to the person who was supposed to have given me the photographs of all the young men who were leaving to go to Trinidad in the Navy. And I was telling you could see all the young faces, some of them 16, 17 years old, in front of the Presbyterian Church, coming out after the service. And the captain of the warship was there with Mr. Rod Watler and Mr. Ernest Patton and all those people. And the person said they have it on video. They have it on, but they don't have the hard copy. But they're going to try to get it for you, for me.
Beautiful.
And so I appreciate every minute that I can talk about Cayman, or that people can talk about Cayman. Is my passion and my love. And I'm so happy that you have put such a great number of people together today to to have this show. I'm so happy about it. And I apologize for being late.
Well, thank you, Steve. Steve and I go back a long time.
Yes.
We used to play cricket right over here.
That's right.
Next door.
yes, right.
We'd come up from West Bay in an old rickety truck, and we were playing cricket.
Yeah. And by the way, Mr. Banks, we would go down to West Bay every other Saturday, and we could not win a match in West Bay. If we were winning, they would intimidate us. Yes. We had a wicket keeper named Captain Erdis. And the umpire would say, don't speak to the player, to the batter. And he would say to me, you're not going to see that ball when they come in, that's too fast for you.
Anyway, we got Pastor Alson on the telephone. Pastor, glad you could join us.
Yes, glad to hear it.
Yes, good afternoon, Pastor Alson.
But I know and appreciate.
Well, hopefully that
he's there somewhere. Yeah, he's there.
Can you hear me?
I'm hearing him.
Yeah.
We can't hear him.
Okay, Pastor, are you there?
Very weak.
Hello to Henry and to Mr. McLean and Dr. Steve and to Mr. Ebanks.
Hello,
and Mr. Banks as well.
Pastor Allison.
I encountered Dr. McPhail the other day in the court building, and I told him one of the statements that I heard him make, and I thought it would originate from him, but it was so apropos, especially in these days. And he made the statement that more is not
better than enough.
More is not better than enough. And I thought, wow, that is so targeted. It identifies sort of where we are economically, philosophically. We seem to think if you get more, it's going to be better than enough.
Yeah.
And I thank you, Dr. Steve, for that statement. If I ever use it in any of my writings, I'll try to give credit to you.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor. I didn't recognize that you were on the phone, so I did mention you in my introduction.
Yeah, that's no problem. That's no problem. And I would say, Mr. Banks, my phone may run out on me because I didn't gas it up completely. So if you have anything you want to ask of me, it needs to be pretty early in the thing before I.
All right. Well, we'll get you in an envelope right now. Now, you've been around the Cayman Islands for some while. You've seen our island's growth pattern and what we are today. Thinking about our history, culture, and heritage, do you think, or to put it in the Cayman vernacular, can you fathom, or do you think that our spiritual, religious, heritage, culture have had the level of importance or influence that it should have had on our growth and our development? And do we need to up that in the future immediately?
Well, you asked two questions. One, whether it has had an influence or a sufficient or adequate influence, and the second, whether we need to up it. Looking back, I think every one of you that are Caymanians on the program there, and I don't know how that compares to, let's say, other Eastern Caribbean countries, but growing up, our spiritual or religious heritage was very, very important to us. In fact, I at least in West Bay, Sunday was considered the Sabbath, even though we were not Sabbatarians in the sense that we were not Seventh-day Adventists. But Sunday was the Sabbath, and it was unheard of to see anyone doing anything on Sunday except going to church. And you went to church and you came home and you rested. There was no playing ghoul, no fooling around, no fishing, none of that stuff. But it went beyond that. The spiritual heritage permeated. It was integrated in society, so that what you learned in Sunday school and church was also something that you encountered in the schoolhouse. I went to Miss Redley's school, and maybe somebody went to Miss Izzy's school in West Bay.
I did, yes.
And so you found the religious education was there as well. And I would say that, thank God, that still is a feature in Cayman that we need to retain, especially since a lot of our, even Christian parents, are not so keen, it seems, anymore, to send their children or take their children to Sunday school. I have numbers of pastors from numbers of churches that say the whole business of taking kids to Sunday school, and maybe it's the case with Sabbath school as well, has just simply declined tremendously. But if you go to any of our private primary schools in Cayman, government-run primary schools, you find that the children learn, they have prayers, they learn the Lord's Prayer, they learn Scripture, and they get to sing spiritual songs. So I thank God that we still have a culture in which our Christian heritage is being kept alive in sort of the public forum. We're losing out at the church level because a lot of things happen now on the weekends that didn't happen before, and so people have multiple choices, and many times they choose not to prioritize spiritual matters. They decide, I'm going to do my laundry, or go take my kids out boating, or whatever the case may be, which those things were never done before. I remember, I don't know, this may be a bit touching to some, but I remember I was an 8-year-old when I heard about a young man that had gone to the same school. He was older than I was, of course, who had drowned on a Sunday out there in Barcas looking comfortable. And, I mean, it just put the Spirit of God in us. We realized, God is there. Don't you go out there swimming or looking comfortable on a Sunday. But, I mean, I was 8 years old when that happened. I still remember it. It still sticks with me. But it indicates just how much the religious and the spiritual permeated our society. Now, maybe it was a bit over the top. God wasn't necessarily punishing the kid. I think he had a seizure or something and drowned. But I mean, it certainly stuck with me. So, I think, Mr. Banks, our spiritual heritage has made a major impact on how we develop. We are, of course, drifting from it, and therefore, the last part of your question is, whether we need to sort of up it. Yes, we need to emphasize it more, and we need to try to keep it in the public forum as well, public arena, in our primary school, in our secondary school, in our tertiary education. It's there because that's our value system. That's the basis of our value system, our Christian heritage.
Well, Pastor, I think you put it quite in the right frame there. That, it's a part of our heritage, and it played a big role in what we are today. But it seems that it's being diminished as time moves forward now. Any suggestions as to exactly what we could do to make sure that we raise that level up?
Mr. Banks, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
That's really the $1 million question. And I think if any of the panelists have any ideas as a pastor, I'd love to grab them. Well, I'm saying that because when even Christian parents are not seeing the importance of taking or sending their children to Sunday school, as was the habit of my parents and your parents and the parents before those, then what can we do? I mean, we can't bludgeon them over the head. We can't brainwash them. It has to be a value that they live by. So my point again is that let us continue to encourage it in our public school system. Let's not allow it to become like America, where we take the Bible and take the prayer out of the school because this dichotomy of the church and the state that we want to sort of import to Cayman. That's not part of our culture. It's not part of our heritage. It's not part of our Constitution. Our Constitution recognizes our Christian heritage and the fact that our values are based there, as Dr. Maxfield, of course, could elaborate on that greatly. But that's a fact, and we need to encourage it so that the spiritual values are not just found in the little enclave of churches, but found integrated throughout our society.
But, Pastor, if I may ask, and again, thanks for joining us, and I certainly extend again another public thanks to Mr. Loxley for assembling such a wonderful panel for facilitating this discussion. Two things, if I may ask of you, though. this notion that on Sundays in particular, we may be going to the beach in a boat and we may be having barbecues and getting together, maybe not necessarily only after church, but sometimes instead of church. Is it then partly because of the lifestyle, the pace of life, the stress, the hecticness that we have, that may be the only few hours of the week on that particular day that families are having time to get together / fellowship, to sort of relax and appreciate each other's company?
I wish it was simple as that.
Yes, sir.
I wish it was simple. Let me give you an example. When I first started the church here in Georgetown 26 years ago, the service that was the best attended in the year wasn't Christmas. It was Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody came to church and they brought their mothers, and it was a great celebration. Afterwards, they went home or went to a restaurant or something, and they had lunch together. And then the worst attended service was Father's Day. And the repeated excuse was, well, we want to take our father out to lunch. I said, well, lunch is at midday. Bring your father to church, and then afterwards, take him out to lunch. I think it's simply a matter of priority. Yes, I mean, we still got 12 hours on a Sunday. Why not put some time to the spiritual matters? We do need to spend time with our family, but we can spend time with our family in the church or in Sunday school, and then together as a family. My family right now, I'm saying my extended family, my sisters and their children, my nieces and grandnieces, almost every Sunday after church, we get together for a meal. I have 4 sisters that still live here in Cayman, and when the 5th one is here, we do the same thing. Almost every Sunday after church, we get together and we share a meal so that there's this intergenerational connectedness, so that my grandnieces and grandnephews can know who I am as I age and they grow up. So I don't think there's an excuse. We can try to make one, but it's not an adequate one from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to pipe in here? Henry, you got any?
Well, no, I'm not. I wouldn't call myself religious. I call myself spiritual. I have delved over the years into every religion. I tend to look at the goodness in all faiths because I happen to believe that all human beings have solid faiths on which they exist, on which they look for sustenance and so on. So my thing is to respect every single person and what they believe without casting any judgment on them or denying what they actually believe and know in many cases to be true. What I do in my life is to live, or to try as best as I can to live an ethical life. I think that one of the things that religion does is to teach one's ethics. Mm-hmm. If, for example, I ask somebody to come and do something for me, and he tells me, and I said, how much is it? And he says $10, and I believe that job is worth more than $10, I'll pay him more than $10. I'll say, I'm sorry, but I'll pay you more. Now, I don't know many people who do that because everybody wants to get it cheaply. Maybe there are many others, but I don't personally know a lot of people. So, to me, ethics is important. I mean, I grew up, my mother was Catholic, and I also made what was called First Communion. And then, of course, by experience, I had an experience where I went to confession, and I always felt that you had to confess. You had to have something to... I'm a little boy, I'm 8 years, I didn't do anything. I stole some sugar from my mother, so I had to go and kneel down. And what I started doing is making up sins, because the priest behind the thing would say, like I'd say, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been, 6 months since my last confession, and I hear this voice coming from behind, you're becoming a bad Catholic. And that threw me completely. And then I had to go in front, kneel down on the floor in front of a crucifix, and then I had to say 10 Hail Marys and 15 Our Fathers and so on to be absolved of these sins. And as I grew into adulthood and I started to look into things, I thought, and I read about other people. You see, if I didn't respect other people, then it would be very difficult for me to exist. And so while I don't, in the work that I do at the foundation, this has nothing to do with my personal belief or anything. I don't force anything. I don't tell anybody about their thing, but I do actually respect everybody and their religion. And I will go. If I go into a church, I will respect it the same way as if. And I do. Honestly, I haven't gone into to mosques, not because of anything else, but there's not one here, or there's not one in Guyana, or I haven't gone into a temple because there's not one here. But I will share with the people and listen to them, and they'll tell me, well, whatever. And I may disagree with them. I don't agree with everything that people believe, but I do believe there is a God. Whatever the person is, he, she, it, whatever, there is a spiritual force, I believe, very fervently, that guides the organization of life and the universe. And that's where I am.
Steve, you want to?
Yeah, of course, I'm one of those old timers. I grew up into a Christian home mostly. The only one who was not a real dedicated Christian was my grandfather, and he was I don't know what he was. He was a man who, like Hemingway always write about, the man who's fighting the elements and pushing the envelope. But he did believe in God, but I didn't see him go to church either time. I was always in church with my grandmother, and I grew up. I went to school in a Christian school. I was one of the people in the Seventh-day Adventist mission school, and that was the first private school in Cayman at the time. And I went there, and of course you had Bible lessons in the morning for an hour, and some of your exams was on the Bible, and in fact, when we were being prepared to do our Jamaica local exams, part of the exam is on the Christian Bible. You have to know the Bible scriptures. Yep. You had to know those, either the Old Testament and the New Testament. And so, like Mr. Mutu said, you became an ethical being. You had a sense of what's right and what's wrong. You had a balance in life. You had a balance even with your environment. And one thing it taught me how to respect other people as people. And when I went to Canada first as a young man, I remember I had this problem going when I went to got my job. Like people were saying, "Well, you don't have to call me sir," and so forth on the job. And I said, "I can't do that. You're older than me, and then you're my boss." And I was taught that anyone who's older than you, even your brother or your sister, or your uncles, or your boss, anyone who was in charge, you had to say yes sir, no sir to them. And I also went through the Sunday schools period. I remember one of my Sunday school teachers was Miss Marcia, I think.
Bodden.
Yeah, Shibiki Bodden. And so I had the cards. I had to memorize them to go back to Sunday school the next Sunday to memorize the worst, because they would ask me what was the worst on the Sunday school card, what does it mean, and things like that. But I also had some hard times in going to Sunday school as a young boy, because in those days you would get your first pair of shoes mostly around 9 or 10 years old. Before that you didn't buy your shoes mostly, and those shoes was to go to church. And I was still wearing those shoes 12 and 13.
Hurting.
Yeah, hurting there. I remember. I remember one time me and my friend Cheryl, we went to school, and also we're in Ebanks, and they told us, don't take those shoes off. You didn't take those shoes off, and so we saw all these guys getting skillet pots down in Hoxtie Bay. And I told Cheryl, I said, don't take your shoes off. And he says he's going down there and get some skillet pots. He took his shoes off, and he was in the water there, and when he came out, he couldn't get them back on because his foot was swollen. So we didn't know what to do that day. So we went down by Ramon Garage, and we got some cap grease. and we cap grease his foot. But we still couldn't get the shoes on. So he had the shoes tied, the string one on one side, one on the shoulder, and I walked him till I get near to his house, and I took off because I knew what was going to happen. And then I heard, oi. They actually, his aunt actually pelted a big rock and knocked him down when he was trying to run away from her by taking off his shoes. He could not take off his shoes on Sunday. Yeah. And I remember my friend Rolly in Ebanks. He would always come, but we would always go to Sunday school together and come out. And my mother would say, "Rolly, what's wrong with you, man?" And he said, "Miss Mabel," he said, they don't hurt me here. Or they don't hurt me here, but they hurt me right round here." And you had to keep on your shoes. Yes. And so when they bought those shoes to you at 9 o'clock, at 9 years old for Sunday school, you probably got your next pair of shoes when you were a man, when you could buy them yourself.
14, 15.
When you're 15 or 16 years old and you start working, you could buy your shoes yourself. So Sunday school, and even then the reverence of the spiritual being was something that guided us when we went to sea. And even when we went out in the world as 16, 15-year-old boys and stuff, we had this thing about praising God, and we didn't really want to work on Sunday either. So over time, we had a hard time on the ship doing that too, to work on Sunday, because we feel that Sunday was not a day of work. Sunday was a day of prayer, and so when I came back from Canada and I see people having football matches on Sunday, I said, "But boy, things are changing, Cayman, because you could never have a football match on Sunday or music playing on Sunday. You couldn't do that. It was always a reverence, and especially if someone died on a Sunday. Goodness gracious, it was like a hush all over the island. Today, all those things don't mean anything now. The meaning now is how much money that this man has, and they don't really care how he got it. All of a sudden now you are a permanent person in a society. It's not what kind of Christian values that you carry along. So I still instill Christian values in my family, in my children, and I still abide by them. And it doesn't matter how hard it get. And a lot of people says to me, what sustained you all these years? When I was fighting against the whole world, it seems to me it was the fact that I was a child of God, and that God would sustain me, and I never left that belief. And so today I am not going to let anyone, I don't care how much money they have or where they come from or what their philosophy is, whether they're gay or not gay or same-sex marriage, that is not going to alter my belief in what I believe in. And as you said, Mr. Loxley, the Christian values is part of our Constitution, and we are going to, something I'm going to fight for, because I think that once you lose the value, and it could not, it does not have to be Christian if you're Muslim and you use your value, what a Muslim is, or a Catholic or Buddhist. It is something that once you lose that, you're drifting in the world all alone.
Okay, we'll pick up on that same train, Mr. McLean, when we come back. I think we got to come up to a break here, but we want to remind you that you're listening to a special presentation of CI Retro Talk Today, exploring the values of our history, culture, heritage, and its influence on our Cayman Islands community development, past and going forward. This special CI Retro Talk Today presentation is being brought to you by Four Winds Esso and by Flowers Bottled Water. Flowers Bottled Water, the cooler water. Flowers offers free weekly delivery to your home or office and is available at select gas stations and convenience stores. Flowers Bottled Water, the original Cayman Islands bottled water since 1974. Flowers Bottled Water carries the Certificate of Excellence in Manufacturing Award. Flowers Bottled Water. Call them at 949-8688. Flowers Bottled Water.
Held over by popular demand this Friday and Saturday only.
It's a crazy 2-day sale only, Friday and Saturday at International Lighting. Comforters for $100 and over, reduced to just $55. All sizes. Rugs have been reduced from $400 to $225 and from $325 to $200. 2 crazy days, I tell you. International Lighting and Design upstairs and downstairs. Ed's Plaza, North Sunway. Open 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 949-5141. And for outdoor shopping, stop by the entrance of the Boddentown Church of God Chapel Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and enjoy those same crazy discounts. Spend $25 or more and be entered in the drawing for a chance to win a round-trip ticket to Denver, Atlanta, New York, Chicago, Miami, Jamaica, or Honduras. Drawing will take place on Friday, December 22nd.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
Say hello to Flow.
Radio Cayman's Information Hour, Monday through Saturday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Brought to you by Flow. Cayman's powerful network that connects you to your world like never before.
Flow.
Say hello to your world, Cayman.
Say hello to Flow, Cayman's #1 network.
The 2018 Fall Labor Force Survey is currently being conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office ESO. The LFS collects data on the employed and unemployed persons. Trained interviewers with ESO ID cards will visit the randomly selected households in all districts. The interviews are confidential in accordance with the statistics law. No individual data will be published or disclosed. Survey data are exempt from freedom of information. For more details, please call the ESO hotline at 516-3329.
Hi, my name is Neraya LeBlanc. I am the minister and evangelist to the West Bay Church of Christ on 24 Batabano Road. I would love to take this opportunity to invite you to experience God's family at West Bay for yourself. We are a caring congregation that strongly believes in reaching out beyond ourselves to spread the gospel of Christ. We also take great pleasure in ministering to the needs of our people in our community. As God's called out kingdom people, we are in the business of transforming lives for the Master's use. For more information, you can visit our website at westbaycichurchofchrist.org or call us at 946-9294 or 917-1809.
Declaring the word of the Lord. Cayman Islands Church of Christ presents Word of the Lord.
Word of the Lord, heard Sundays at 6:30 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
And we're back, and our thanks to Pastor Alston for his input here on this program today, where we're exploring the value of our history, culture, heritage, and its influence on our Cayman Islands community development, past and going forward. And I think we got a couple of calls waiting, but we're going to open the phones up in just a little bit later, so if you can just hold on there. We want to pick up right where we left off here with the discussion on the religious part of it. And, going through my mind when Steve mentioned about first year and second year exams, one of the focuses of those exams lessons was the Good Samaritan on the Jericho Road, or on the road to Jericho, I guess it was. Yeah. Gilly?
Yeah.
Mr. McLean?
Yeah. Loxley, I listened to what Steve was saying, and indeed, my upbringing was in the Adventist church, and certainly my values, I set them, they were basically instilled in me via the religious teachings. It's you don't steal, you don't covet, you don't murder, all the rest of it. That is where I gained my values from, and placed a value on myself as I went forward in life. And Steve again made a point that there's certain things that I don't do, I have not done, and I will not do. It's even in my involvement in life, positions that I've taken politically and so on, which have been against the grain of what is happening then. But I simply believe and know and feel within myself this is right, therefore I can stand up and against what is, and argue against what is happening there. And it's on that basis that I have I pretty much have lived my life. And one of the things along the way, because I've always been curious, I've read a lot and so on, and about religions, be it Buddhism or whatever, is I've tried to respect everyone else's view. Don't come to try to tell me I have to think this way, or this is the way it is, and so on, because then you're going to run into somebody who's going to totally disagree with you. You have your point of view. I'll listen to it, and I might learn something from it. I might agree with certain parts of it, but don't try to force that on me, because I have my own. To me, it's personal. It has been built into me over the years, and by my readings and the history of various religions and so on, I have developed my own position on life and what is the correct thing to do. And both Loxley and you, Steve, have said about and you too, Henry, about having exams in religion. When I did Third Jamaica Local, I remember one of the books that we had was from Solomon to Herod, and that was one of the textbooks, and you were tested on that, and you had to pass it, because you could have passed all the other stuff and you didn't pass that. You had a problem because you had to pass all of the subjects, and just to reflect on that momentarily. Nowadays, everything is on a phone, and they give you the maps of whatever area now. Those days it says, draw a map of North America and put in all the main mountain ranges and the rivers.
The wheat fields.
So you had to learn these things now. Maybe that's it's a different world.
You mentioned those exams; they were held right down in Georgetown Town Hall.
That's right. That's right.
We were separated by, I guess, 10, 15 feet. You couldn't even
look at the next.
You couldn't even glance anyway.
That's right.
And I remember the commissioners at the time. They would come down there and walk around.
Down the aisles of the desk.
Yes. That's a discipline for you to come up there with everything between your ears and put it down on paper.
That's right.
And I'm not sure that kind of discipline is practiced in schools today.
They don't do it that way now at all. You got these multiple questions and so on. But like in geography, you don't even talk about geography anymore. It's what social sciences now and whatnot. But like I clearly remember that part of things, and it was a different time. But those things certainly had their effect on me and how I thought, and up until now. And religion did play a major role here in influence us as a people.
I just want to pick up on what Steve mentioned a while ago, how his religious and spiritual background has buoyed him throughout the years, and I can echo that. I can echo that sentiment. Probably all of us around here, but I was isolated really out on a little rock in the mid-Pacific for 11 months one time, and that was the main thing that buoyed me out there. Even though, and this was when I was in the U.S. Air Force, we didn't have a chaplain, a resident chaplain, but there were, at one time there was 35,000 or 3,500 men, just men, on that island. It was an island 6,000 feet long and about 2,500 feet wide. Runway down one side, taxiway on the other side, and barracks in the middle. But there was a group of us that met every Sunday in a Quonset hut, and we each took turns in presenting some kind of message from the Bible, and it'll buoy you. Sure, it'll buoy. It's a good buoy. It'll stay with you.
That's right. And one of the things that sustain me, Loxley, I keep, and I used to read all these Seventh-day Adventist pamphlets all the time, and I remember this all the time. It says God has a plan for every man, and He has one for you.
Yes.
And so when something happened to me, I said, "That's not what." It was a roadblock, and I say, because that's not the plan that He has for me. That's how I would justify it.
Yes.
And say, and I would move on, because I know that's not what He wanted to do. And so that sustained me all of my life. And believe me, I had some hard time, but I would never give up those religious teachings. And I could have gotten into a lot of things but other people would. I remember when I had a hard time training in university, and I've met these people, and I said, what are you doing? I says, I'm going to work in the logging camps in the summer. Times, did you go and work in the lumber camps, chopping down trees? You know what the guy said to me? Find a few girls and put them out in the streets to work for you. And I said, God, That's not my culture. That's not where I come from. And when I told him, he said, well, how long is it going to take you to be a lawyer? I say about 7 years, because I got to get my 4-year degree first and then get into law school another 3 years. He said, that's a damn waste of time. That's what they told me. And people would constantly do that to me. Oh, you know, why you want to do this? Why you want to do this? Because God has a plan for me, and I trying to find out what that plan is. And so, with all the setbacks, when and I would always pray in Loxley, tell me what it is you want me to do. Show me what it is you want me to do. And one day I woke up and I say, this is where I'm going. This is where I go, and I never turn back.
No. You know, there was a little gem. We call it memory gems. Years ago, we called not every disappointment is a misfortune.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And, you know, those things like that stick with us. I think we got some folks on the telephone.
Yes. All right, let's go to our phones. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. And to your panel, I think it's Loxley, Gilly, Henry, and Dr. Maxfield.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Did I miss anyone?
No.
And the Pastor Al on the phone.
Oh, Pastor Al on the phone. Okay. Good afternoon to all. Kenneth Ebanks.
Hello. Hi, Kenneth. Kenneth, where are you?
Hi, Ken.
I'm good. But unlike Pastor Al, I gassed up last night, so
yeah, you could hold on.
Yes.
It's a good thing that I did. Very interesting day. I think Loxley, it was probably you who instigated it, or arranged it, organized it.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for doing that. I have a few comments, and they've been touched on before, but I'd just like to make a few comments on them. I think Gillett talked about architecture and how we're losing that and not incorporating it into our current and probably future development. I mean, if you look at Dr. Roy's house, that could easily have been incorporated into that building.
Definitely.
Some of Pantonville could easily have been incorporated in that development.
Yep.
If you look along South Church Street, I don't know about you all, but before, as you made that bend there going south onto South Church Street, you got this, well, at least I did, this particular feeling, along South Church Street. It was one of the most beautiful streets, in my view, on the island. It's like the lower part of Shedden Road where it intersects with the waterfront there. I mean, to me, that holds a special place, and it should with all Caymanians.
You're speaking of the old Marines complex as such. I mean,
correct.
Anywhere else, Puerto Rico, you go to different countries where you have old San Juan, you got New San Juan, and those things, those would be protected by law because that's part of our history.
Correct. Now, when Carson and I were in planning, and we were able to convince the powers that be then that we needed to try and get against some quote-unquote Caymanian architectural traits into the legislation, and we were able to. Actually, the enforcement part then was a bit more difficult because convincing the CPA at times that they should do A, B, and C was a lot more difficult than we anticipated. The next thing is our natural landscape. I mean, we're losing that. Look at the big cotton tree that used to be there at the old Fort Fort George.
Yeah.
The Guinnep tree was just across at the Westwind building.
Yeah. The one opposite the legislature too.
Right. All those mature trees are gone. Luckily, the Guinnep tree has been transplanted elsewhere, but it could easily have been incorporated into the redevelopment of the Westwind building. But we're losing that. restaurant. You go into a restaurant, you can't get a good Caymanian meal.
Mm-hmm.
We're losing, but we're losing the culinary capital of the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. You can't get a Caymanian meal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. You're right.
And what is called Caymanian is so far from Caymanian.
Yes, something doesn't sound quite right there. And I am convinced that what's happening is not by accident, but by design. And
I agree with you.
Everything Caymanian is slowly being eroded, knocked down, and I know it is a rough term, but I would prefer to call it a cultural genocide. Because I think it's by design and not by accident how Caymanian culture in the broadest sense is being destroyed. That, gentlemen, is my few cents for today.
Well, thank you, Ken. And I think you hit some nails pretty well on the head there. It's ringing. It's ringing out in the community right now. And
yes, and you're talking about trees. I was so upset. In fact, I was against it when one of the magistrates ordered that one of the largest, oldest tree in Georgetown was chopped down. That was the old tamarind tree in Central.
Oh yes.
And it's because he said the police would say, they were under the tamarind tree. That's where he found them smoking ganja or gambling. And he said, well, we'll cut the tree down. Can you imagine that? And there was not a voice against that.
But can you imagine now the culture and that probably before that aspect that you spoke of came in, that was created under that tamarind tree? When I'm thinking about the music, the stories, and a place for the men to go to have to talk with each other in the evenings after work and after they came back from sea. Yes.
That was a place where they played marbles, where it was a venue for congregating and speak and talking. Yeah. The same thing as the old breakwater in Georgetown. Remember with the sundial. That was the place where the politicians went in the evening and across from the old courthouse. That was the museum and had all these conversations.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're hopeful that these kind of programs will enlighten the Cayman Islands community, and we've got a big community, 65,000-70,000 people.
And it's like Henry say, what are we prepared to do?
Yes. This is exactly what I was coming back to, right?
Yes.
Let me
to make it the way it should be.
Let me just. Sorry, can I just? What I'm saying is this: we let's take the work of the Cultural Foundation. I can guarantee you that not a whole lot of people know the work that we do. People will talk, but they don't come to the shows. They don't support us by giving us $1. Many people, they'll come on, or some people we have. Yeah, a lot of people volunteer from time to time, but most volunteers can give you an hour or two, and then they don't come back again because people are volunteering all the way around. But if you look at the work that we've done based on what we've been talking about, that we know that's already have happened and that's happening now. Mm-hmm. Let's take even the bit with the land. We've saved Miss Lassie's land there and the house. Mm-hmm. So we've got two things there, right? Music. We started out with Roy Bodden because we knew at the time that Caymanians loved country music, and it was part of that old heritage. So we recorded Roy Bodden. The only recording that I know of Roy Bodden actually singing a full set of songs, 15 or whatever. The Cultural Foundation recorded him to save it. We recorded Aunt Julia. We videoed Aunt Julia. We have we don't get. We put it. We have a website. We ask people to come and look at the work instead of just talking about what's happening. If you do something about it, if you come and get educated through the work of the foundation, I'm not saying everything that we do, everybody is going to like or not. For example, we're doing a play which is opening next week. It's a play written by a Trinidadian, but the themes in the play is about people respecting themselves. What would you do to get out of a trap that you find yourself in? How do you respect the person next to you, the woman that you have? What is life value and so on? So these things are embedded in it. Well, if you look at, for example, Miss Lassie, we have 140 paintings. We can't put them out on permanent exhibit because they have to be kept in a certain
environment,
climate to be able to keep them more than 30 years. And so we have them there, and anybody can come and say, can I see them? Not every day, of course, but we can show them. When we do these exhibitions, you get 5, 6, 10 people and so on. You do a show, you get 30 people, except for rundown, which people like to laugh at, and they come fit. So the work of the foundation, and I'm not trying to tout the foundation, I'm not here to talk about the foundation, but the work that we do to be able to answer and correct some of these things that we have talked about that's happening, people should get involved with. Because you've got to get involved with your own stuff and place value in it, as I said. Otherwise, nobody is going to come and do it.
But this is where my view is that because of the forces external to the culture that we want to preserve, it's so great that there's, that's foolishness. Don't waste your time on that and so on. Here, this is what you need to be looking at. Hollywood did this, and this is what you need to accept, And
it's the validation. Everybody looks outside for validation. This is the problem. For example, if you get a Cultural Foundation medal, right? Let's say our highest award is what do we call the Heritage Cross? Because again, we realize that the Christian heritage, and it has thatch and so on it. When you look at that and you think, okay, this is Heritage Cross. Now, if somebody gets an MB, they will value that much more than they will value it. Yes. But the real value is to be given by the people among whom you live and who actually gives you something that says what is important to the country. So you see, we're caught, and I'm not knocking. I'm saying that you have to go through this education and get people in a way to, yes, they want to accept whatever you want, but at least give some space to accepting and placing value on what you said. You get up in the morning,
plenty of space,
and no education, no matter where you go. So, just last thing, I did 2 degrees both in England, right, and one at the University of Western Zone. But when I left Guyana, I was 27 years. When I left permanently, I was 27 years old. Nobody can change me about what it is that I know and believe to be true. And the same religious values and ethics, I learned it. So, but if you take these same works of Miss Lassie, we found a document before she died. So I'm going to type the religion thing here about how important it is. Before Miss Lassie died, she wrote the creed. I believe in Jesus, I believe in this, and Michael Archangel. She wrote it down, and she had put the parcel for Consuelo to find it, to say when she dies, this is what she wants. Consuelo never found it, so we never knew. But when I designed the gravestone for her, I added that creed that she wrote. And if you go and you look at the gravestone, you will see that creed that she's saying. It's in the cemetery in her gravestone. So I think that I really would wish people would look at the stuff that we have already and do something about it. The archive is brimming with stuff. How many people go and read all of the interviews, the hundreds and hundreds of interviews? See, so we've got to try somehow, and this is why I said education. I'm sorry to talk so long, but you have to bring the ministry, whoever it is in education, has to understand. They have to see it, and the people who guide us from the top has to then place the value on these things, not through rhetoric, but through action. I really honestly don't go to meetings. I don't like to go to meetings, and I don't like to sit down at meetings where people talk all the time and I hear the same thing over and over and over. And then when I say, how are we going to do this? Then everybody sort of throws up their hand, and you wait 3 years before, and they tell you how wonderful it is and how important it is to them, but they don't do it. I believe in action, and as long as action is going to happen, I'm with everybody.
All right, gents, we just got to pause and take a break. I believe we have some callers online as well, so when we come back, let's join them. If they stay on, please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Welcome to our Esso service station. How can I help you today, ma'am?
$25 in fuel, please.
Sure. I bet I can make you smile, too.
Bet you can't.
Would $5,000 cash make you smile?
Of course. Who wouldn't? But how?
Spend $25 or more in fuel at any of our Esso service stations, and you could be the winner of $5,000 cash. Every week for 5 weeks, one lucky winner will win $5,000 cash. Made you smile, didn't I?
I'm smiling.
Drive into an Esso station today. The Esso brand is a trademark of ExxonMobil Corporation and is used under license.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Held over by popular demand this Friday and Saturday only.
It's a crazy 2-day sale only Friday and Saturday at International Lighting. Comforters for $100 and over reduced to just $55. All sizes. Rugs have been reduced from $400 to $225 and from $325 to $200. 2 crazy days, I tell you. International Lighting and Design upstairs and downstairs. Ed's Plaza, Northtown Way. Open 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 949-5141. And for outdoor shopping, stop by the entrance of the Boddentown Church of God Chapel Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and enjoy those same crazy discounts. Spend $25 or more and be entered in the drawing for a chance to win a round-trip ticket to Denver, Atlanta, New York, Chicago, Miami, Jamaica, or Honduras. Drawing will take place on Friday, December 22nd.
Cayman's cruise industry must be preserved and developed. It is a myth that the cruise lines will continue to call on Cayman at the rate they do now without the piers. It is a fact that the mega-class ships will not be tendered. Arrivals will decline by half over time as the older ships are decommissioned. This will hurt our economy and thousands of Caymanians who work in this industry. If we want to continue providing opportunities for Caymanians, we need the piers. Support the piers. Support our tourism.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Cayman's youth swimmer Jordan Crooks will add to the Caribbean flavor. The 3-day Dean Martin Memorial Swim Meet at the National Aquatic Center in Kingston, Jamaica, starting today. Crooks, who represented the Cayman Islands at the recent Youth Olympic Games in the 50 and 100 meters freestyle, says he plans to use what he learned at the Games during his swim. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, a man has been convicted for the 2015 murders of 4 people inside a Washington, D.C. mansion that shocked residents of the nation's capital. 37-year-old Darren Wint was found guilty of all 20 charges against him, including first-degree murder, kidnapping, burglary, extortion, arson, and theft. Prosecutors say Wint's DNA was found on a slice of pizza that was delivered to the home on the night of the abduction. Matthew Shepard has been laid to rest at the Washington National Cathedral 20 years after he was brutally beaten and killed because of his sexuality. The first openly gay Episcopal bishop, Gene Robinson, presided. The men responsible for his 1998 murder admitted targeting Shepard because he was gay. His death is remembered as one of the worst U.S. anti-gay hate crimes. And a powerful 6.4 magnitude earthquake south of the island of Zakynthos has been felt across western Greece. No one was injured by the tremor which struck today, but there was significant damage to the local port and a 13th century island monastery south of Zakynthos. A series of aftershocks were felt in the hours after the quake, and local schools were shut for the day. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music, and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman. Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
A trip to New York City is the experience of a lifetime. Starting this December, Cayman Airways will be offering daily non-stop flights from Grand Cayman to New York City. That's right, Cayman Airways is going daily to New York City starting this December. Stroll through Central Park or take in the bright lights of Times Square, enjoy a Broadway show or visit museums, the Empire State Building, and so much more. Whether you're visiting for business or pleasure, you'll fall in love with New York City. And daily non-stop flights from Grand Cayman aboard Cayman Airways starting this December. For details and to book, call Cayman Airways reservations at 949-2311. Contact a travel agent or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Cayman Kind is the Cayman experience.
We work at the Cayman Craft Market.
It is a myth that we do not need the cruise ship industry.
It is a fact that when there are no ships in port, we do not earn a living. We depend on the cruise industry, and if it was to reduce by half, many others just like us would suffer immensely. We want to work and provide for our families.
We need the pier.
Support the piers. Support our tourism.
References.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks to join us here on this special production of CI Retro and Talk Today, able facilitated by Mr. Loxley Ebanks. In the studio, Mr. Gilbert McLean, Dr. Steve McField, and Mr. Henry Matu. Gents, we do have some callers online. Thank them for their participation and their extended patience for staying with us. Hey, good afternoon and welcome.
Yes, good afternoon today.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
How are you
afternoon.
today?
Okay, and good afternoon to you guests also.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Yes, well, I have a question has to do with more the history part of the subject, and that is, why don't our churches ring church bells anymore before church service? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let me just take that. You know, that's something that I asked the same question many years ago, and I keep asking it. And I had a pastor tell me, and I can call his name Pastor Case, because we had quite a discussion on it. He says, you know, we used to ring this bell every day, and we kept getting the complaints from people who came in here that they don't want to hear church bells in the morning.
On Sunday. Good reasons to keep ringing it.
Yes. I said, well, and I have been trying to advocate for that practice to come back on. In fact, I think we're going to get a little blurb on it on Memorial Day or Armistice Day, or we call it Remembrance Day, in that, you know, this is the 100th anniversary of World War I, the end of World War I, 11th day, 11th hour, 11th month. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that we will have church bells ringing at 11 o'clock on that day. Mm-hmm. Now, whether we can pull it all together, but that is how we're driving forward. Yes. And you know, it's something that's a part. That first bell, boy, you listen to that first bell, you knew you started.
But it's, you see, again, it's a ritual, and the thing is that people live by rituals, and if you're a society without rituals, mm-hmm. then what do you have to work with? You know, so if you kill the rituals, then what you're going to do is to start killing the society. Yes, and I would be interested to see somebody go to London. London's what the poets call sprinkle the quarters on London. Dang, 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 dang. And then it goes dang, 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 half hour. Dang, 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 dang. And then they finish, and then they go bang, bang. I'd like to hear somebody go and tell them that Big Ben they should stop ringing Big Ben. So it's interesting that people think that you should stop doing what you're doing.
All right, Jess, we have another caller. I believe he's been there for extended period too. Good afternoon. Thank you, sir.
Hello, good afternoon, Sterling, and to your panelists. I won't attempt to call everybody name because I can't remember. Just know that I know Dr. McPhail and Gilbert.
Good afternoon.
And I think Mr. Matu. And,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The last person that eludes my memory.
Loxley.
Loxley. Yes, right. All right. Well, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just would like to say that it's refreshing to hear such a great group of people who understand the history of the Cayman Islands and who are willing to come on the radio and educate some of the younger people, because I think it's a lost art. And I think a lot of people have lost their moral compass because, of all of the hustle and bustle that's going on in Cayman, and certainly the fight for survival and being able to stay relevant and stay on top of all of the current necessary things that they have to in order to remain a part of the Cayman Islands fabric. So I know that that Cayman Islands and its people doesn't have a very long history, but it was certainly a very interesting one, and one in which I think should be taught through the schools as a part of the curriculum. I think it's important that every child in this country that goes to a school in the Cayman Islands, whether it be public or private, should understand who the Cayman Islands is and who the people are and how it got to where it is today. And I know that in the mid 1800s, and I know Mr. McPhail is an expert in this field, and I'm sure he'll plug in the proper dates after I'm done. But I do know that in the 1800s, the Cayman Islands was pretty much self-governed, and it was because nobody paid us any attention. And even though we were under Britain, we were left alone for quite a long time, and we formed our own legislators and we governed ourselves right up until they recognized that we were doing a really good job, and then they made us answer to the governor of Jamaica. But the reality is that I want to know. And it's really concerning to me because there's very few people, and half of those people are in that studio today, who have a full grip of the diversity of Caymanians. And we left from a nation or a country of people who were able to adapt to just about any adversity and create a sustainable environment for our people. And even up to the shipping days of Mr. Daniel Ludwig, and I had the opportunity to read some of his memoirs, and he stated very clear in his memoirs that if you were from the Cayman Islands, you just had to prove you were from the Cayman Islands and you were automatically hired. And that was based on the ability and the understanding and how Caymanians adapt really easy to certain environments. So I want to know why today, and we've seen now ever since the British rule from in the late 1800s when they made us rule under Jamaica, and that proverbial kind of suppression, we've seen now where we've become a nation of people who always waiting for somebody to tell us what to do and show us how to do it. And we've moved away from that once elite group of people where the minute they called our name and where you were from, there was a certain level of respect for our people simply because of how we applied ourselves and the things that we accomplished. Half of the people from the Cayman Islands that went to sea, they left here no more than just common laborers, came back as sea captains and engineers and all these things with no formal education. And I think that speaks a whole lot of volume for the ability of the Cayman Islands. But somehow we have gone off that course from where we once were respected as hard-working, morally religious people. And people talk about religion like it's a disease. What people don't realize is that half the reason why Caymanians are so respectful and complacent is because we had a good Christian bringing up. Regardless if you became a pastor or you became a person who stayed in the church every Sunday, it gave us a moral compass as to who we was, where we're going, and how we should get there. And all of a sudden, that whole level of respect that the Caymanian people once had from everybody on the outside has somewhat watered down and eroded because we've allowed certain influences. And Cayman is one of the most diverse islands in the Caribbean. One of your callers mentioned something very important to me, and that's about local food. Imagine on any given day of this week, the best we can get that's information, available for future generations. It would be great to see Cayman culture and history so that we can have sustainable environment and sustainable development going forward. The same caller also said that, there was easy ways to incorporate our historical sites into our development, into Georgetown, but we transformed it into something that is unrecognizable. It's not a reflection of who we once were. There's sustainable development. Like, everything that we do in our country should reflect who we are, where we came from, and what we represent. Yeah. And today is one of those things where this is one of the most pleasant shows I've had an opportunity to listen to. I'm always blabbing my mouth about just about everything. And today was one of the few days that I weren't going to call in, but I just wanted to thank everybody in the studio personally.
Yes, sir.
Because it's a really good show.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We should really have more of it, because it's important that we get this information to our younger generation, because we have a generational gap. Mr. Matt Field will tell you, he's been fighting certain fights for a very long time, and then there's a generational gap where people just didn't care anymore, and now we're back at the situation where we see all of this development going on in our country, and it's for who and whom is doing the development, and we've been lost in translation. But gentlemen, awesome show today. I wish we could have it once a week. That would be great.
Well, keep listening. Talk Today and CI Retro is partnering on this series of programs going forward, and hopefully that we'll create something like maybe 8, 10, maybe 12 programs within the series dealing with all the various aspects of our culture, our heritage, and the way forward, and what we can do and what we need to do, and try to raise the awareness. But just for a minute here, I'll read you a quotation from Samuel Taylor. He lived between 1772 and 1834. It said, "If men could learn from history, and women too, we have to include them in there, what lessons it might teach us, but passion and party blind our eyes, and the light which experience," and that's the culture and heritage and history comes in, "gives is a lantern on the stern." Now that's back to maritime lingo, the stern of a ship, which shines only on the waves behind us. But it really should be shining on the way forward.
So, Jess, there's another caller. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hello, and thank you for the very nice show. I am enjoying it.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
And I really do hope that it's something that we will continue to see continuing forward, as just because we want to improve upon the method we use to educate, or particularly our young people, about who we are. And when one speaks about culture, of course, it's not just the way we talk, but our cuisine, our accent. There's so many things that make up a person's culture. But I think when it comes to our history, it's a very grand and glorious history for the most part, and I'm glad for the show. Anyway, someone mentioned, I think Mr. Banks mentioned his encounter with Reverend Case about the ringing of the church bells. So Brother Case, as he was very, still is known, he mentioned the same incident to me once, and he said, well, this one, there were expatriates who were working here. So on one morning, he actually came across and said, the one thing that bothers him is the ringing of the church bells and the crowing of the roosters. So Brother Case mentioned, he said, well, I can tell you, speaking for myself, we have no intention to stop the ringing of the church bells. You'll have to go crow with the roosters and see what they say about their part of it, but we're going to keep the bells ringing. So I hope we'll get back to that. We put up with the roosters, we can't do a thing about it, so I don't know why ringing of church bells should be such something. It's who we are. We've got to stop changing for other people.
Amen.
That's it. We don't go to other places and ask them to change their culture and what they do to suit us. And so when individuals come here, this is who we are. You live by it, or the option is to leave. thank you very much for the show.
All right, thank you very much.
you very much.
With respect to the cuisine, a question from one of our listeners on our WhatsApp says, good afternoon, panel. Can anyone explain where this cooked stringy beef called Cayman-style beef originated? Says, I did not eat any such thing growing up in Cayman many decades ago.
I can't tell you that, Sterling, but I can tell you what. That's not Caymanian cooked stew beef. Because Caymanian stew beef, and I know I grew up as a child, my family had cattle and so on, and butchered in the evening with the light, and then you hung up the carcass to stiffen so it could be cut, make the right cuts and whatnot. The heart, the lights, and part of the neck bone was cooked because the fellas were taking their little sip, the butcher during that time, and everybody's going to eat then with the cassava, some boiled cassava and potatoes and whatnot. But Cayman stew beef was beef, browned, cooked until it fell apart, and it didn't have on none of this look of pulled pork and whatnot. And in fact, some of the fat, which was always attached to what we used to call a lot of meat,
that's right,
was in the pot, and that softened that meat.
Well, you had to use the fat. The point is, you don't. If people are selling you, and because quite a long time ago, I bought some to make it at home, and you couldn't get the meat without the fat is important. That's what actually, and you leave it in there for hours and hours, and it falls apart by itself almost.
Yeah.
Now we're rushing everything, so you take 2 forks and you just pull it apart and so on.
Yeah.
I just want to make one point about what the gentleman before, I think what came to me, is that, and this is where education has to look at things again, and whether it's through the university or various places, to create programs. Because I think, from my observation, and I might be wrong or it might be partly wrong, is that we've become, in a way, a nation of consumers rather than people who made things. I mean, Gilbert, you mentioned the point about rope. We made rope. All of the different things that we made. We made schooners, right? And rigged them and sailed them and all that.
Yeah.
And so we had... The society had men with practical skills, whether they could sail or not. You ask most young people today, who even when they have master's degrees, they're all going and getting these degrees, but they're basically, there's no hand skilled. So you send somebody, say, go and saw a piece of wood. If they don't have, a power saw or something, they can't use it. I'm not saying you go back to all these things permanently, but I'm saying that you want to be able to have people who could actually make things rather than depending. I mean, people don't cook anymore. Who cooks again? You go to the supermarket. Most people, I shouldn't say most actually, unless you have a helper to cook at home because you're working. I buy food at the supermarket a lot, not all the time, but I can't. Because my wife and I both are at the theatre, so we don't go anywhere. We have to then rush out quick and pick up something in the supermarket. But the truth is that we're not cooking the foods anymore. So in a sense, the skill of cooking Caymanian food, that skill is lost. And the more we don't do these things and become practical people again, let me not become practical people again, but at least add some sort of education that, whether it's a trade school where you can actually learn to fix and do things and build things and balance it with the need for you to go out and buy things. I think it's a balance all the time in life, and if we can try to find that balance, I think we're good.
Well, speaking about, you're so right, speaking about the for example, lobster. I've gone to restaurants where they say, Cayman-style lobster. What was the Cayman-style lobster? Lobster cooked with slices of cabbage and tomato. When in this world did Caymanians ever cook? There were different ways of doing it. You cook lobster with pie. Yeah. It was fried lobster, or it was what we call scalding. You eat it with lime juice and pepper water.
Yes, right.
It's...
Do you have a call, Mr. Loxley?
You got another call?
Yes, sir.
Let's take it.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
I'm so glad we got some Caymanians on board. Hallelujah. Amen. Anyway, Steve, I'm calling to say that I miss the ringing of the church bells. I grew up across the street from Wesleyan Holiness Church. This is Nina Orat. And I used to go over there and take my turn and ringing the bell. Of course, the bell was so heavy it would pull me up in the air, so the the pastor's son, he would have to keep holding me down, but I enjoyed doing that, and I miss it. I miss it terribly, because when we had funerals and stuff, the bell would slowly ring to let you know that there was a funeral taking place. Sunday school, it would ring a little faster, and I miss it. So I hope that the church, all the churches in Cayman are listening to this show, because it's true what my mother said, that you come to our island, you got to endure what we grew up with, and we don't go to your country and try to change anything that you got down there. So don't come to ours and try to change anything that we have. But doing a great job, guys, and I love you guys. Send me some of that Cayman style beef and lobster now.
All right. Well, with that, we have another caller, Mr. Loxley.
We got another caller?
Yes, sir. Hey, good afternoon and welcome.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Want to say happening?
Quincy.
Let me tell you something. I have thoroughly enjoyed the show this afternoon. I was tempted not to call. I was tempted to call, but I tried to resist the temptation. I said, let me hush my mouth, open up two big ear holes, and listen to the show. It has been good. It is great to know where we have come from, that we can talk about things like this. And as somebody alluded to earlier on in the show, places like the National Archives and the resources at the Cultural Foundation, we need to avail ourselves to these resources, because this is where all of our history lies, you see? And culture is what it is now. We know that. And Cayman isn't the Cayman Islands. I use Cayman in the pluralistic sense. Cayman is not what it was 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. So it's embracing now whilst not forgetting the past. I think Simone Scott said it best. Simone Scott, who heads up the CTA sessions on the BRAC, and she's also National Gallery rep here on the BRAC. When we have these heritage days, why are we reenacting when, in fact, we should be living? That's what she said, and I think she's absolutely correct. But nobody wants to go back to the days of toiling over a caboose to cook a meal when you can just take 3 minutes and put something in the microwave and heat up. So we have evolved, but we must never forget where we come from. And shows like this, I think, educate. But we must take action now. It's more than just the talk, you see? Yeah. So, gentlemen, thank you for today's show. I hope I recorded it, because so much information. I'm kind of in between a young man and an old man, so I'm at a good age.
Yeah. Thanks, Quincy. I think that all of the panel, just quickly, we're not, I don't think anybody's advocating go back to cooking on a caboose every day. I think the point I made, and I think many people said it, is that we need to return to ritual. These things are ritualistic. So even if you had a festival, for example, when we started K-Fest, one of the things we used to do is to open the festival with the launching of a symbolic schooner, right? We used to, but of course, these things cost, and it's very difficult to get people to involve. But I would certainly like us that whenever K-Fest is, hopefully we'll get to the point when we could have, whether it's a model schooner or whatever, and get the idea of doing a ritualistic launch, because obviously you're not going to go back to launching a real schooner, but at least if you can reenact it, and I do believe in reenactment at times, but you can reenact these things so that the younger kids coming up could see, and then an older person can say to them, well, this is what I used to do, and you play the music and so on. So ritual is important, and if these rituals, if we can reinstate some of the rituals, I think you don't have to go back and live, like you say, we're now returning to the place, but we want that whenever the culture is, when it's being defined, as it is being defined, we don't forget some of the things, the values that made Cayman what it was and made we who we are.
Very quickly, because I know the show is coming to the end, but very quickly, I want to commend persons like Liz Walton Thompson, also Debbie Rankin, Simone Scott, and the entire committee for the wonderful job they did 2 weeks ago with the BRAC Autumn Heritage Festival. Hugely successful. And also Spot Bay and Cayman BRAC has sort of brought back a Christmas tradition of Christmas in Spot Bay. They also have a fishing tournament and things like this, fostering community, people coming together. But not everybody who joins us, and I'm not xenophobic because I love to travel the world. As a matter of fact, I've been on Cayman BRAC too long now. I'm suffering from island fever. But Naira, Tom, Dick, and Harry that come here will particularly respect our traditions and rituals because they're coming in with their own. You see, we've got to understand that too. So all of that makes up the new Caymanian culture, the fact that we're so diverse. But we must never forget we past where we come from. Quincy Brown signing out. Keep the good work up.
Thank you. Thank you, Quincy. And,
thanks very much, Mr. Loxley.
Yep. It's, I think it's been a very interesting program. And as I mentioned before, Talk Today and CI Retro has partnered for a series here. And this is the kickoff of it, that, and conceptualizing this whole series forward. I chose this subject just to see if we can really, erupt some thinking out there in the community to really get us doing things to perpetuate our history, our culture, and let the world see, we're who we are, and don't come in here and try to change us. Join us, have fun. It's
yes. Well, I just want to plug something before you go. Mr. Mutu talked about the ritual of launching a schooner. Well, I'm interested in something called the Goldfield 2 Foundation. I know that I'm not going to get a lot of support for it, but I'm going to try to launch it anyway. The Goldfield 2 Foundation, it would be designed to build a second goldfield. I've spoken to some builders on the island, see people who have the old models. It would be bigger than the first goldfield. We would like to build it and rig it and launch it and use it as a training ship for boys and girls. Our ship could go around the Caribbean, around the world, for instance, as a tall ship. And to train them, we would take 40 or 50 boys and girls on the ship. And we would want to build it a place where tourists could come and see how the ships were built and so forth. It's going to take some money. I asked one sponsor, and they said, well, go out and start the foundation, and they would put in some money. There's another suggestion that we just build it in Canada, which would be much cheaper, and then sail it down. But, I would rather it built here that people can see, because we can use a lot of people in the prison for the labor, some of the labor that we have to use it, and use it as a training ship. So our boys and girls could be an ambassador around the world again, because that's part of our heritage. That's been lost. And that's something I would be interested in doing. But the Goldfield 2 Foundation, I've asked the original owners of the Goldfield if we could use the name, and they said yeah, and they would even be a patron of the foundation themselves. And so that would be something that I would like to see before I go pass on. That we could restore as part of our heritage, because not only did that family build the Goldfield, but they also built a ship called the Western Union.
Yes.
And that ship was so big for Cayman, they built it in pieces and took it and reassembled it when they got to Key West. That ship is still going. And you couldn't buy that from the Americans today. They would never sell that ship. And so we instead of having the old Jolly Roger out here that's always run the shore, we would have our Goldfield too.
Steve, you mentioned the Western Union. The Western Union has just been refurbished. In fact, I'm not sure it's back in Key West yet. And the Cayman Islands Maritime Heritage and the Catboat Club has followed the path of this Western Union, I guess, for the last 30 years. In fact, at one time, they thought that it was going to go up for bids. It was on a dry dock in Admiral Stevens Dry Dock, 11th Street up in Miami, and some of the foundation members went up there and looked at it and really, inspected it. We were waiting for it to go up an auction, but Key West, the community in Key West stepped in and said, "Oh no, this cannot leave Key West," even though everything, the boat was built by Cayman laborers, Brother Will and the Arch brothers, and a lot of other Caymanians. It was prefabbed more or less right here in Cayman.
Yes,
took up to Key West and assembled, because the Western Union could not own it if it was not built. And you get back to and the same thing that you would aspire to honor that foundation was really the foundation of why we tried to get the Goldfield back here.
Yes,
it was all, but
and
again,
what a sad story.
Yes, it's a sad story. I cringe every time that I have to think about it. But I think, Steve, I'm sure I can't speak completely for the Cayman Islands Maritime Heritage Foundation and Catboat Club, but I think, we would certainly be interested in exploring, dig down in this whole idea with you and see if we can move it forward.
Yes.
Well,
terrific
we're
idea.
Coming up, we're running a little bit over time, but gentlemen, it's been a great program, great participation. Pastor Alson, thank you for participating by the telephone, and Moto.
Thank you, Mr. Loxley. Yeah, it was just a privilege to be here among the real old-time people who know this stuff and know it much better than I do. Like I said, I had no experiential knowledge prior to when I arrived here. What I do know is I have seen in the 30-something years that I've been here, and I know that change. And so even if I look at it the way it was before, it's easy to make the transition to see, and I know the value of these things. And I think that's how we try to do our work at the foundation. And I hope that a lot of people or more people would come, and not just come and or go online and learn about the foundation, but to come and help us do the work, because that's a good start. I think if anybody wants to start dealing with Caymanian culture and saving stuff and so on, should come and look at the work that we're doing at the foundation and perhaps help us and buy whatever products, because we don't make money out of them, but we don't want to lose money. And so I just hope that we get as much support or much more support than we're getting now. And I feel privileged to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I too. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here this afternoon to talk about things that I know and I've lived and so on. And I'm delighted to be able to pass on some of that information. And I think it behoves us all, like myself, like Steve, like you, Loxley, and so on, to talk about these things. And hopefully the younger generation will become interested and realize that we are a magnificent people, a people who have fought against major odds with very little to back us except the spirit, the enterprising spirit that has been shown. And just to mention that, following on what Steve said about building another gold field, I know that Mr. Jerris Miller and I think his son who have. And the Millers built some boats as well in North Side.
That's right.
This young man, I think he has done further studies and whatnot in it. That those type of people, I dare say, would be interested to get involved as well.
Yes.
Well, that's what I mentioned. We're all part of the Catboat Club, the Maritime Heritage Foundation.
Okay.
And Steve, closing word.
It's very interesting what a gentleman who called several calls ago said about our rich heritage in our culture, Christian heritage in our culture, and our Christian values, and all the things that guided us all down through the stormy seas. It was something that people prayed about, even though the hurricanes took their whole families. People still prayed and still keep the faith, as they call it. And when I appear before the United Nations Decolonization Committee, and I had my directions from the cabinet as what to say, that we didn't want any further advancement, and they were saying, like, well, that's the cabinet's position. Do you have your own position? The floor is open to you. And I took an hour and a half, and I relate the history of the Cayman Islands, where we came from, how we got to this point. And one of the things that was remarkable is that they did not know that we were an independent country for over 30 years. And when I told them about the St. James Rebellion, 1831, 10th of December 1831, when we formed our own government, our own bicameral legislature and stuff and things like that, people say, well, how did you get away with that? How did you get away with that? People are amazed. And people are amazed and say, people from the United States say, we had to fight for our independence. We shed blood for ours. We said we didn't do a thing for ours, but they passed the Caymanian Law Act, they call it, in 1865, 365, putting us on the Jamaica.
They ignored us because
and, you see,
so we were able to do it.
Yeah, and so when I tell the history of that, people are amazed, and it's funny that a lot of Caymanians don't know that. So those are the things I'm interested in, and that's the reason why I'm interested in programs like this, Mr. Loxley, because it gives me a chance to be able to try to install in the younger people the discipline that the teachings of the church and the schools in those days relate to us, because otherwise we would not have been one of the favorite countries in the world, in the great North America, if we hadn't had those teachings. We'd have been just like everybody else. They would have treated us just like everybody else. And that is very important to me. That is something that I'm guided by every day.
Well, maybe at the end of this series, we will revisit this subject as we laid it out on the table today, and hopefully that Dr. Roy Borden will be able to join us at that
yes.
point. And we expected that he'd be here today. Hopefully he's okay, doing all right. But gentlemen, thanks for coming in and joining us here on this special edition of CI Retro Talk Today. Before we go, I want to remind you, though, that Talk Today, CI Retro presentation was brought to you by Flowers Bottled Water, the cooler water, and by Four Winds Esso in West Bay, serving the Cayman Islands, West Bay community for over 6 decades. And Sterling, you want to take it out?
Well, Mr. Loxley, looking forward to the next production. It's 10th to 7th, November the 9th? November the 9th.
Right before
the 9th, yes, which we're going to look into the Cayman's people participation in the direct, we want to call it intimate, defense of freedom and democracy and preservation. And that's a whole broad subject that nobody really, I don't think I've ever really put it between the ears the way that it should be, and hopefully we can get it exposed on that. So keep listening for CI Retro Talk Today presentation, November the 9th.
All right. And to all, thank you so much for sharing. It was an honor and education for me to be able to sit here and listen and learn and laugh along. On Monday, join Mr. Art Corner for the record. Please come back for Talk Today right after the midday news. We'll have a perspective from many of our private citizens with respect to the petition for a referendum relative to the port. So some private citizens sharing their perspective. We try to bring balance and objectivity. Have a blessed and safe and productive weekend. Until then, be blessed.
Thank you, guys.